Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of r/malicious compliance. In today's episode, want us to follow your rules and not be efficient. Okay, have fun with that fallout. Be careful what you ask for, you might just get it. Yes, I am in charge. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe so that you will never miss a video. Let's get started. Want us to follow your rules and not be efficient. Okay, have fun with that fallout. Hi everyone. This is my first Reddit post, so please be gentle. English is my first language, so I will endeavor to make this as legible as possible. I apologize for formatting errors if there are any. Let me know in the comments and I will fix them when I can. Backstory. This is when I was a teenager about 10 to 12 years ago. But I remember this story very clearly. It was the first time in my life that adults disrespected me so often and badly. I volunteered at a local hospital in the gift shop. My job was checking inventory, cashier duties, answering the phone for people buying with credit card to deliver to a patient's room, vacuuming the shop, and call the local florist if the flower cooler starts to get low for another order. The time I volunteered there was from when I was 13 until I was 19 and in college. So after a while I became the most senior worker after other volunteers left. At one point, the manager of the gift shop, who was very nice and treated us volunteers well, mysteriously vanished without a trace. That left us under the care of the hospital's auxiliary board, who was so disconnected to the goings-on of the gift shop that they didn't even know the names of the volunteers who worked there. Eventually, a few board members were tasked with maintaining the upkeep of the shop and began to implement their own regimes onto the clientele and the volunteers who cater to them. After a while of their crazy demands, I decided to stop trying to explain how the shop is run and just deal with their demands and let them try to climb out of the trench they dug. Cast. Me, a basic individual. A B1 auxiliary board member 1. A B2 auxiliary board member 2. A C awesome coworker. Story. At this point I am about 18 years old, in my second year in college. I continued volunteering for scholarship reasons. The auxiliary board just took over the gift shop and had told everyone on the Thursday afternoon/evening shift to not reopen the shop until 2:30 p.m. My shift at that time is from 2 p.m. 6 p.m. and it is only myself and a C working for these for hours. I get there first and go to the volunteering office to get the master key for the gift shop to start setting up for 2:30. Turning on the cash register, count out the drawer again, make sure displays are neat and full of items, fix up the candy and flower areas. The woman in charge of volunteers stops me from getting the key and tells me that the auxiliary board doesn't want the store open until after lunch. I said that I was aware, but that I wanted to get the store ready, not that I would let patrons in if I wasn't allowed. They looked wary but let me and a C do what we have always done. About 4:30 p.m. an older couple wearing hospital ID tags walk in and browse around the store for a moment before walking behind the register to me and a C. A B1, what's this we heard about the store being open before 2:30 today? Ladies. A B2, it's possible you haven't been aware of the rule. You've been around for what, for months? Me, holding back the eye roll of the century. I've been volunteering for 5 years. A C, I've been here for 3 years. A B1, oh, looking very surprised. So then, ladies, why did you open the shop then? You were made aware of the new rule. Me, we didn't let patrons in, ma'am, just let ourselves in, locked the doors again and got the store ready for the rest of the day. There were no transactions made before 2:30 today. I promise. A B1, regardless. After today, and spread the word, no one opens this shop until its designated time. Understand? A C, yes ma'am. I just nod, unable to say anything else, otherwise I would start mouthing back. It took everything in me to not tell her how stupid that was. But we send an email to every other volunteer worker associated with the gift shop, telling them that the rules were so reinforced that the store can't even be ready for 2:30. But that's when we actually unlock the doors. The following day, I wasn't volunteering, but I got text messages from other volunteers telling me that many patrons were upset at the store not being ready at 2:30 since they waited around for that time to get their loved ones the presents to bring to their rooms. And that one woman apparently missed the birth of her grandchild from waiting for the shop to be ready. A B1, and to blame the volunteers for not being experienced enough and sent out a scathing email to all of the volunteers, talking down to us like we had no idea what we were doing, and told us to document everything we were doing during the shift and to time-stamp the actions. These people wanted to know every transaction when inventory checks were done, etc. They also said that they will have someone actively watch the cameras during all volunteer-only shifts to make sure we were doing our jobs correctly. So Big Brother was always going to be watching. Saturday that week, I volunteer in the morning. The store opens at 8:30 a.m. and a C called into the volunteer office to say she was running late. So I had to open the store all by myself. I sit in the lobby, watching my phone for 8:30 a.m. before I go to the door and unlock it. People were waiting by the doors who I had to not let in before I locked the door again and opened the store. Since I was alone and had to write things down in the middle of everything in a little spiral notebook that was already half full from the day before. It is 8:50 a.m. when I finally unlock the doors and let patrons in. A few were grumpy, but most understood that the hospital had a lot of volunteers and that we were all mostly young adults, so they didn't act too harshly, luckily. A C shows up around 9:15 a.m. after the opening rush starts to die down and helps on the other register. I counted and opened that one for her. Around noon, the same board members come storming in. A B1 is the book here from yesterday and this morning. At this time I am writing in the last transaction and room delivery I just came back from. Me, yes, right here. I close the book and hold it out. A B1 snatches it from me and walks out with that angry expression. A C, what was that about? I shrug, not having any idea. At the end of that shift at 1:30 p.m. for the afternoon lunch break hour, a C and I are called into the volunteer office. The head of volunteers is there with the chairperson of the auxiliary board. They tell us that the store is receiving complaints from not being ready on the scheduled opening times and that patrons are complaining to the volunteer office. A C looks terrified while I am getting angry. I tell them that a B1 told us to not open the doors at all until the scheduled times and that there is an email from a B1 into telling us what they expected us to do. I pulled the email up on my BlackBerry phone and showed them. They said they would discuss it and to have a good rest of our day since we were allowed to leave. The next shift was the following week on Tuesday night 6 p.m. 8 p.m. Inside the gift shop was a B1 and two with the other volunteers. A C had this night off and I was with someone else who was so quiet. They don't even matter in this story. I walk in and the head volunteer person on that shift pulls me aside and tells me that the volunteers are spending the entire day teaching the two auxiliary board members how the store is run in each shift, and especially since I am closing shift, to be aware and teach them how long it takes for things to be done and what we do. Sitting in folding chairs behind the cashiers, and not in the plush bar stool type chairs, are tired looking a B1 and 2. The older couple's bedtime was probably coming up, and they looked miserable. I enjoyed that shift of showing them just how long it takes to close down the gift shop, and that when the store closes at 8, it means that we leave then, not start closing at that time. We use the hospital PA system at 7:30 p.m. to announce that at 7:50 the cash registers in the gift shop will shut down, so to make your way down now if you need anything. The closing rush came and went, and we made a B1 and to try using the cash registers to help the patrons. Watching these two who thought they were better than people who come here on their own free will for years finally see the bit of hard work it is was great. Thank you for reading. Be careful what you ask for, you might just get it. Okay, so this happened back in the 90s. After reading some of these I felt this might fit right in. Background is I was a maintenance worker for a local community. Now there is about 30 in our group of workers assigned to different departments. I've been bounced around from one to another for various reasons. So I tend to have a smart mouth at times and my replies tend to PO off the bosses. So for whatever reason on this particular day I somehow someway PO'd off the superintendent, so my boss's boss. He had a long time hard on for me, didn't much care for my attitude, but I always showed up on time and always took any overtime offered, so despite being a smartass, I was a very capable skilled worker. Now on with the rest of the story. This is really back before cell phones were widely carried. I was pulled from my assignment and told to meet with the super for a new job. Well, we have a community bridge where I worked and the kids used to spray paint graffiti on it constantly. So I was told to paint the bridge. I was dropped off with paint, brushes, rollers and nothing else. So no radio to call for anything. This was in the early part of the day. I wasn't told to bring my lunch or anything to drink. So off I go to paint over the graffiti. I've been painting for a few hours by brush since I figured it was a punishment for something I might as well take my time doing it. The weather was perfect. Now 1 hour and a half after what should have been my lunchtime, the super drives up, gets out with another boss, and comes to inspect what I've been painting all day. He starts screaming at me, what the duck have I been doing all day? I told him I've been painting like I was instructed to. He calls me a liar and said I've done nothing but duck off all day. Well, now that's not at all true, as I did in fact paint the bridge. However, I painted the backside of the bridge that faced out into a field and not the side that people can view when crossing the bridge. He was so PO'd off at me while I looked at the other boss, who was laughing because he knew that I had a habit of doing what I'm told, just not the way that they expected it to be done. My response to the super: well, if you wanted me to paint the inside of the bridge, you should have directed me to do so. You said paint over the graffiti, which I did. You, however, gave me poor directions, and now you're mad about it. P.S. I had to spend the rest of the week painting the entire bridge. I hoped you got a chuckle out of it. I have a few more to write when I get a few minutes. Yes, I am in charge. Long-time reader, first-time poster. This is my first time posting, and it's about an incident that happened when I had turned 27 to 28 and was part of an electrician apprenticeship program through my local of the IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and was entering my 5th year of the 5-year program, basically making me the equivalent of a high school senior. In July of that year, I was working with one of the largest electrical contractors in my city and was assigned to work at one of their contracts for one of the local/largest oil refineries at one of the multiple plants they had in area. In July, the apprenticeship starting, sending out what were unindentured apprentices who had not yet started classes but were working to see if they would qualify for the program, and had a lot of new faces arriving daily. Since I was a senior apprentice, I was placed in charge of the apprentices that were part of the wire pull crew that did multiple 1,000+ foot wire pulls daily to help complete the new process unit we had been assigned to do the electrical construction on. As we made our way up the many platforms and ladders at least 40 feet into the pipe rack and into the cable tray that supported the cables and wires, I would pass out position assignments based on skill levels. After 2 pulls, we all got down to take our morning break. I noticed a new face amongst the crowd hanging around our little break area where we had our toolboxes/gang boxes/lunch boxes. I saw one guy sitting on top of my lunchbox/square ice chest. I approached him and said, "Hey buddy, I guess you didn't notice the name written all over the lunchbox you're sitting on. Who gave you permission to sit on my lunchbox?" The new guy stood up and looked up at me, being a few inches shorter than me but also looking to be in his mid-40s. "You can't tell me where to sit and not sit. Who put you in charge?" At that moment, the younger guy he was talking to stepped between us and led him away. After the union-mandated 15 minutes at break, me and my crew were gathered around the wire pull foreman little blueprint shack to get ready for the next 5 pulls they had planned. At that time, a few of the new faces show up, led by the union steward, who introduces them to the foreman. As we broke up to go to our assigned locations, as usual, I was at the front of the pull lifting the wire up from the ground level. Over the walkie-talkie radio, I heard a lot of chatter and felt the wire being jerked from behind me despite having a seasoned crew working. Multiple calls on the walkie-talkie demanding whoever is pulling and jerking the wire to get in rhythm and not pull so forcefully, since we were at that moment pulling data wire that had fiber optics inside which could be damaged. After the pull and tie down of the wire, I rushed down my platform to the ground after my foreman called us down on the radios. At this point, I am livid and seeing red. I finally get to the bottom with my pull partner next to me trying to calm me down. I stop when I see my foreman yelling at the same guy who sat on my lunchbox, "Are you some kind of idiot? We might have to do the entire pull all over again because of you and your pulling of the wire, despite Nasty telling you over radio to stop jerking the wire and to stay with the pull count of 1 to 3 pull." The guy looks down at our barely 5 for foreman and looks like he is going to punch him. I proceeded to run up and stand at my full 5 leave-in height between him and my foreman when the asshole opens his mouth. "Get the hell out of the way, this is between me and him. Who the hell are you anyway to act like some big shot?" I calmly stood there and my foreman, as cool as a cucumber, goes, "A's actually your boss, the one in charge of the wire pull, and you just broke his perfect pull record of 400 pulls and no issues, asshole. My boss. He can't be. He is just a kid, probably barely 21, and he is telling me what to do." Me: "Yeah, that's right, I'm your boss, old man. Because I'm a 28-year-old 5th-year apprentice and you're over 40, barely entering the program. I'm also your senior in the union rolls. That's why I make the max $25 an hour to your $12 an hour, because I have more time on my electrical license than you do." He stood there with the realization that he was up the creek without a paddle, because he thought since he was older that he would be placed in charge of things. The union steward showed up and stood before him between the two of us, then turned to me and asked, "Nasty, what's going on here?" The look of realization on the new guy's face got even wider, and he actually got pale when he realized the name on the lunchbox over the radio and the one the foreman mentioned were all me. As I explained the situation and how the new guy had basically ruined it $100 per foot 1,000 feet wire pull, the new guy turned even paler when he did the mental math, and I mentioned $100,000 cost of that ruined pull. The union steward looks at him, then at me, then at him, and asks me directly, "Well, Nasty, you are in charge of this crew when in the air, so what do you want to do with him? Move him to another crew, a different plant, fire him since he is not officially in the program yet." The new guy almost looks like he wants to faint as he looks in my angry eyes, silently pleading to not fire him. Start the termination proceedings if Chaps, Chaparro or Shorty, the nickname we had for foreman, agrees with me since he is a financial and safety liability, since it's obvious he can't control his anger, let alone listen to instruction. My foreman looks at the steward with a gleam of joy in his eye. I want him gone, not from the refinery but the company and the local. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.